Welcome to Well Sleepy, where curiosity grows as quietly as dew on stone, and learning carries you gently toward calm and rest. There is nothing you need to do now, nowhere you need to go, and nothing you need to remember. Simply allow these words to drift through you like cool air through a shaded forest. Imagine evening settling softly over the land. The sun lowers, light thins, and the world becomes gentle around the edges. Sounds grow distant, movements slow, and beneath your awareness, a deep, patient calm begins to spread. You are standing at the threshold of a forest that feels ancient and kind, a place that has been waiting without urgency. As you step inside, the ground beneath you changes. It is no longer hard or demanding. It yields softly, cushioned by layers of green that feel alive and forgiving. This is moss, quiet, humble, and endlessly patient. Moss does not announce itself. It does not compete for attention or reach upward to be admired. It simply exists, and in existing, it transforms everything around it. Moss has been here for hundreds of millions of years, longer than trees, longer than flowers, longer than birdsong echoing through branches. When the land was young and bare, when life was still learning how to touch the earth, moss arrived gently and stayed. It learned how to live without roots, without flowers, without seeds, relying instead on a quiet conversation with the air, the rain, and the light. Moss absorbs water directly through its leaves, drinking mist and dew as easily as rain, asking only for patience and time. It grows slowly, so slowly that its movement feels invisible. Yet over years and centuries it softens stone, stabilizes soil, and creates entire living carpets where life can rest. As you listen, notice your breathing, beginning to match this rhythm. Slow, even, unforced. Moss teaches without speaking that growth does not need to be rushed, that survival does not require struggle, and that stillness can be powerful. Each tiny leaf of moss is a simple structure, thin and delicate, yet together they form dense, resilient communities capable of surviving freezing winters, long droughts, and deep shade. In the quiet forest, moss fills spaces others overlook. It settles into cracks in rock, along fallen logs, across damp soil, and beside whispering streams. Wherever life needs softness, moss appears. Long before humans walked upright or wondered about time, moss was already working quietly, capturing moisture, preventing erosion, and creating microhabitats for countless small creatures. Tiny insects, slow-moving invertebrates, and microscopic organisms find shelter within its velvety layers. To them, moss forests are vast landscapes, filled with valleys and towers made of green. Time inside moss moves differently. Water lingers, temperatures soften, life slows down. Imagine kneeling now, resting your hand gently on a moss-covered stone. It feels cool and alive, holding moisture like a memory. Moss. Remembers rainstorms long after the clouds have passed. It remembers shade when sunlight shifts. It remembers climates, storing traces of the air and water that moved through it. Scientists study ancient moss layers to understand what the earth once felt like, because moss quietly records history without needing to be asked. And as you rest here, surrounded by this ancient calm, your thoughts may begin to drift. That is perfectly fine. Moss does not demand attention. It simply offers presence. In a world that often celebrates speed and noise, moss exists as a reminder that life can thrive in gentleness. It does not race the trees toward the sky. It does not bloom for applause. It spreads patiently, layer upon layer, year after year, content to grow sideways rather than upward. There is a lesson here offered without words. You do not need to reach higher tonight. You do not need to prove anything. Like moss, you are allowed to rest exactly where you are. The forest around you grows quieter still. Distant sounds fade. The air feels cool and safe. Moss glows faintly in the dim light, not with brightness but with depth, a soft green that seems to absorb worry. If you listen closely, there is a sense of time stretching, becoming wide and slow. Moss has seen ages pass. It has lived through shifting continents, changing skies, and countless cycles of growth and rest, and yet it remains gentle. There is comfort in knowing that something so small can endure for so long without force. As this journey unfolds through the night, you will learn how moss survives without roots, how it drinks from fog and air, how it shelters life invisibly, and how it shapes ecosystems simply by being present. But for now, there is no need to learn actively. Let the knowledge arrive passively like rain soaking into green. If you find comfort here, if this quiet science and slow storytelling help your mind loosen its grip on the day, then staying connected with Sleepy is like returning to this forest again and again. By subscribing, you choose more nights like this, more gentle journeys into nature, history, and the calm rhythms of our world. There is no rush. Moss never rushes. Stay here a little longer. Feel the ground supporting you. Feel the air moving softly. Let your thoughts thin and spread like green across stone. In this place, time slows, life softens, and rest becomes natural. This is only the beginning of our journey into the ancient, peaceful world of moss, and you are safe to drift as deeply as you wish. As the forest settles deeper into night, the world becomes even quieter. Shadows stretch gently across the ground, and the air cools just enough to feel soothing on your skin. Welcome back to Sleepy, where learning moves slowly, like water seeping into earth, and curiosity rests instead of races. If your eyes are closed, let them remain closed. If your thoughts wander, let them wander. Moss has no need for sharp focus, and neither do you. Moss lives a life unlike most plants. It has no roots to anchor it firmly into the soil, no deep systems reaching downward in search of nutrients. Instead, moss holds itself lightly to the world. It uses tiny, thread-like structures called rhizoids, not for feeding, but simply to stay in place. They are not roots in the traditional sense. They do not drink from the earth. They merely hold moss gently against stone, bark, or soil, allowing it to rest where conditions are kind. This way of living teaches a quiet lesson. Not everything needs to cling deeply in order to endure. Without roots, moss listens closely to its surroundings. It absorbs water through its leaves, drawing moisture directly from rain, fog, mist, and dew. When the forest breathes out moisture, moss breathes it in. Each tiny leaf acts like a sponge, capturing water molecule by molecule. In dry times, moss may appear dull or brittle, curling inward as if sleeping. But when moisture returns, it awakens almost instantly, unfolding and turning green again. Moss does not panic during drought. It simply waits. This ability to pause life, to slow almost to stillness, is one of moss's greatest strengths. Scientists call it poikilohydry, but you can think of it as surrendering to the rhythm of the environment. Moss does not fight dryness or cold. It accepts them, knowing that change will come. Imagine how restful it would feel to trust time in this way, to know that even after stillness, renewal is possible. Because moss does not depend on soil nutrients, it can live where few other plants can, on bare rock, on old walls, on rooftops and fallen trees. It turns inhospitable places into soft living surfaces. Over centuries, moss slowly helps break down stone, trapping dust and organic matter, creating the first thin layers of soil. In this way, moss becomes a quiet architect of ecosystems, preparing the land for forests yet to come. It arrives first, stays patiently, and makes room for others. Moss also lives without flowers. There are no bright petals, no fragrances drifting on the air. Instead, moss reproduces using spores, tiny and light, released gently into the wind. These spores travel without urgency, settling wherever conditions feel right. There is no force in their movement, no competition for pollinators, no need to stand out. Moss trusts the wind. It trusts chance. It trusts time. Inside each moss plant is a simple, ancient design. There are no complex vessels for transporting water upward. Instead, water moves slowly from cell to cell, spreading evenly throughout the plant. This is why moss stays small, close to the ground, forming soft mats instead of tall stems. Moss chooses stability over height. It chooses closeness to moisture, shade, and coolness. In doing so, it creates an environment where calm naturally gathers. As you imagine moss living this way, consider how your own body responds to slowing down. Your shoulders may feel heavier, sinking toward rest. Your breath may deepen without effort. Moss invites stillness simply by existing. It reminds us that growth can be horizontal, gentle and shared, rather than vertical and competitive. In the quiet spaces of forests, moss helps regulate temperature and moisture. It keeps the ground cool during hot days and insulated during cold nights. It holds water during rain, releasing it slowly over time, preventing sudden floods and erosion. Moss acts like the forest's memory of water, holding on to abundance and sharing it gradually. This steady generosity supports insects, fungi, seedlings, and countless microorganisms that depend on consistent moisture. Moss beds are tiny sanctuaries. To a small creature, A moss-covered log is a world filled with shelter, food, and safety. Water droplets hang between leaves like suspended stars. Temperatures shift gently rather than sharply. Life moves at a pace that feels survivable. Moss does not dominate its surroundings. It harmonizes with them. As night deepens in our imagined forest, the moss beneath you feels cool and reassuring. There is a sense that nothing here is in a hurry. Trees sway slowly. Water trickles quietly. Moss listens, absorbs, waits. You are allowed to do the same. You do not need deep roots tonight. You do not need to reach or strive. Like moss, you can rest lightly where you are, supported by the present moment. If these quiet lessons of nature bring you comfort, if learning in this slow, peaceful way helps you unwind, then remaining part of Well Sleepy is an easy, gentle choice. By subscribing, you invite more evenings like this into your life, more calm stories, more ancient wisdom, and more restful journeys through the natural world. There is no pressure. Moss never pressures. It simply remains, ready whenever you return. For now, stay here. Let the idea of living without roots soften your thoughts. Feel the freedom of not holding too tightly. In the next chapter, we will drift into how moss lives with water, how it gathers it, stores it, and shares it with the forest in slow, generous ways. Until then, rest quietly, like moss beneath the trees, patient and at ease. The night has grown deeper now. The forest feels wrapped in a soft hush, as if every sound has agreed to speak more quietly. Welcome back to Well Sleepy, where thoughts slow, breathing deepens, and learning drifts rather than arrives. If you feel yourself becoming drowsy, let that happen. This story does not need your full attention. Like moss itself, it will continue gently whether you are listening closely or drifting toward sleep. Water is the quiet companion of moss, not a forceful river or crashing rain, but moisture in its most delicate forms. Mist, dew, fog, and lingering dampness in the air. Moss does not chase water. It waits for it. When rain falls, moss opens itself fully, absorbing each drop as if it were a gift. When the forest exhales moisture overnight, moss breathes it in slowly, leaf by leaf, cell by cell. Moss is often described as a living sponge, and this image is a peaceful one. Its tiny leaves and spaces between them are designed to hold water for long periods of time. Even after rainfall has ended and streams have settled, moss remains damp, quietly storing moisture that will later be released back into the environment. In this way, moss becomes a reservoir of calm, smoothing extremes, preventing sudden dryness or overwhelming wetness. It teaches balance without effort. As water moves through moss, it travels slowly. There are no rushing channels, no pressure-driven systems. Water spreads gently from one cell to the next, ensuring that the entire plant remains evenly hydrated. This slow movement creates a sense of internal harmony. Nothing is deprived. Nothing is overwhelmed. Everything receives just enough. In dry periods, moss enters a state of rest. It curls inward, conserving energy, reducing exposure, and waiting. This is not failure. It is wisdom. Moss can remain dormant for weeks, months, sometimes even longer without harm. And when water returns, moss awakens almost instantly, turning green again within minutes. Life resumes quietly, without drama, without celebration. Moss does not mourn dry times, and it does not cling to wet ones. It simply responds. There is something deeply comforting in this relationship with water. Moss does not fear absence. It trusts return. Imagine what it would feel like to carry this trust within yourself. The knowledge that rest is not an ending, and stillness is not loss. Moss reminds us that life does not always move forward in a straight line. Sometimes it pauses, sometimes it waits, and sometimes that waiting is what makes survival possible. In forests, moss plays a vital role in shaping how water moves across the land. When rain falls heavily, moss absorbs much of it, reducing runoff and protecting soil from erosion. When the rain stops, moss releases water slowly, keeping the ground moist and streams flowing steadily. This gentle regulation creates stable environments where many forms of life can thrive. Moss becomes the forest's quiet caretaker, managing water without ever being seen. Tiny creatures depend on this moisture. Insects, worms, and microorganisms find refuge in moss's damp layers. For them, moss is not just a plant but a climate, cool, humid, and predictable. Moss cushions eggs, shelters larvae, and provides food sources that exist nowhere else. Entire ecosystems rest within these soft green mats, supported by the patient presence of water. As you imagine lying near a moss-covered stream, notice the sound of water moving slowly over stones. There is no rush, The rhythm is steady and reassuring. Moss along the banks darkens with moisture, holding droplets like tiny mirrors. Each droplet reflects a fragment of the world, leaves, sky, and shadow, and all held gently in place. Moss also remembers water. Layer upon layer of growth traps particles from rain and air, preserving chemical signatures of past climates. Scientists read these quiet records to understand ancient rainfall patterns and atmospheric changes. Moss does not forget what the world has been. It carries history softly, without burden, without noise. As this chapter unfolds, allow your own mind to become like moss. Let thoughts arrive and pass without urgency. Let memories surface and fade without needing attention. There is no need to hold on to anything tightly. Like water and moss, everything can move slowly, evenly, and naturally. If this slow science, this gentle storytelling, brings peace into your evening, staying connected with, well, Sleepy allows these moments to return whenever you need them. By subscribing, you create a small ritual of rest, a place where learning never overwhelms and curiosity always feels safe. There is no pressure. You can come and go as freely as water itself. Now, as the forest breathes quietly around you, rest in the knowledge that moss and water have been companions for millions of years. Together, they have shaped landscapes, softened stone, and supported life in silence. In the next chapter, we will drift further back in time, exploring moss's ancient lineage and how it remembers the earth itself. Until then, remain here, calm and unhurried, floating gently like moisture held in green. The forest feels older now, as if the night itself has stretched backward through centuries. The air is still, cool, and calm, carrying the quiet weight of time. Welcome back to Well Sleepy, where learning moves slowly and the past feels soft rather than distant. There is no need to imagine clearly. Let the images blur. Let the words become a gentle background, like wind passing through leaves as you rest. Moss is not just ancient in age, but ancient in memory. Long before forests towered overhead, before flowering plants painted the land with color, moss and its relatives were already here. Over 400 million years ago, when Earth's surface was raw and rocky, moss was among the first to touch land and stay. It arrived softly, without roots, without height, and yet it changed the planet forever. In those early ages, the land was harsh and exposed. Winds swept freely. Rain ran quickly over stone. There was little to hold water, little to stabilize soil. Moss settled into cracks and crevices, slowly trapping dust, moisture, and organic material. Over time, this thin living layer helped create the first soils, preparing the way for larger plants, forests, and eventually entire ecosystems. Moss did not conquer the land. It healed it. Because moss grows in layers, it becomes a living archive. Each season leaves behind a subtle record, a shift in moisture, a trace of minerals, a memory of air and rain. As new growth gently builds upon the old, time stacks itself quietly, year by year, century by century. In peatlands and ancient bogs, moss has preserved records stretching back thousands of years, sometimes even tens of thousands. Within these green layers lie stories of changing climates, drifting winds, and shifting skies. Moss does not rush through time. It experiences it slowly, almost imperceptibly. A human lifetime may pass in what feels like a single breath to moss. This slow existence creates resilience. Moss survives ice ages, warming periods, and massive environmental changes, not by adapting quickly, but by enduring patiently. It waits, it holds, it remains. As you rest with this thought, imagine time itself slowing around you. There is no schedule here, no urgency. Moss exists outside of hurry. It grows when conditions are right and pauses when they are not. There is wisdom in this rhythm. Not everything needs to happen now. Not everything needs resolution tonight. Ancient forests carry moss like a memory held close. On tree trunks, moss marks the direction of moisture and shade. On stones, it signals where water once lingered. On fallen logs, it records the slow return of wood to soil. Moss witnesses decay without fear, understanding that endings are simply transformations moving quietly forward. In many cultures, moss-covered landscapes have been seen as sacred. Temples, stones, and old paths softened by moss feel protected by time itself. Moss blurs sharp edges. It calms harsh lines. It makes even ruins feel peaceful. There is comfort in knowing that time can soften rather than destroy. Scientists study moss to understand Earth's past because moss listens carefully to its environment. It absorbs particles from the air, water from rain and traces of sunlight, preserving them gently within its tissues. Moss does not judge the past, it simply holds it. This quiet record helps humans understand how the planet has changed and how it may change again. As you breathe slowly, feel yourself becoming part of this long timeline. Your worries belong only to the present moment, and even that moment is drifting. Compared to moss, everything moves quickly. There is relief in this perspective. Nothing needs to be fixed tonight. Nothing needs to be solved. If this feeling of timeless calm brings you peace, returning to well, sleepy whenever you need rest can become a small act of care for yourself. By subscribing, you allow these gentle journeys into nature, history, and quiet science to remain close, waiting patiently just like moss. There is no demand, only invitation. Now let the sense of ancient time settle around you like a soft blanket. In the next chapter, we will bring these lessons home, exploring how moss teaches humans to rest, slow down, and live gently in a fast-moving world. Until then, remain still, wrapped in green memory, supported by the quiet endurance of moss.